Right, what have we got here? Right, it's another jet beam this time. Now, I'm a big fan of jet beams. Every single jet beam I've looked at has been pretty good. There's a few changes I'd probably make to some of them, but I like them. They're strong. They don't sort of let you down. I've dropped a few, never had any problems. I like the finish on them, and the way they're designed is normally pretty intelligent. So it's a bit of a smaller one today rather than the larger sort of tactical ones. It's the Jetbeam Jet-ii MK. I have no idea what the MK stands for, but I'm quite looking forward to having a look at this one. And this one comes in the titanium grey colour. And this always makes me laugh. You know, how to use it, things you can use a flashlight for. Well, I never. There you go. You learn something every day. It produces light. Okay, so as I open this up, I'm going to tell you about it. So Jetbeam Jet-ii MK. Running on the CREE XP-L high. HI just stands for high intensity. One of my more favourite emitters. They're pretty good. So let's get rid of this packaging. That's all that comes with that. What have we got in here? So you've got a bit of silica. So remember, don't eat it even if you're hungry. That just gets rid of moisture and transport and what have you. So what have we got here? So there's a little manual. So I'm going to use X-Men powers and memorize that. That's memorized, and this is a rotary action, and in other words, it doesn't have a button. There's a rotary action to get through the modes. So you've got low, medium, high, ultra low. Yeah, okay, makes sense. And it uses a cr123 battery, which is a nice small form factor. I quite like those, so I'm going to put that to one side. I've memorized that. What's all this? Warranty card, nice to see. And if you notice, yeah, it's jet beam, but it's also sometimes known in some countries as a niteye. Warranty card, nice to see. Put that to one side. Now, what's this? Something in Chinese, ni hao. I can only understand a very small proportion of that, but there's a little QR code you can scan. I presume that takes you to the website. Yeah, fair enough. What's this? This is a certificate of approval. Nice to see. That means it's been inspected, and in other words, quality control. And there's a spare O-ring, and that looks like a 1mm rather than a 1.5. Yeah, for this small flashlight, that's probably all you need. And the, most of the manufacturers will give you 2, but this one only gives you 1. Fair enough. Maybe they're more confident with the machining. In other words, they're more confident that you're not going to split the O-ring through in proper handling. So, okay, you're getting a free one. Some of them you don't. I mean, I think it was the last O-Light, didn't even get a free one. So, nice to see. And there's a lanyard. I never really used these things. It's either in my pocket or in my hand, but that's up to you. So, let's do the little test on this. So, let's give this a yank. Feels okay. Does this bit come off? Let's have it. Nope, that feels okay. Yeah, that's not coming off. Feels okay, not as plush as an O-Light one. It's sort of Hiker-Light quality wise. Fair enough. And there's a little spacer if you wanted to use that. Again, I don't use these things, but it's a nice freebie. And then this bit obviously threads through one of these. Nice to see it's got multiple entry points for the landlord. Like to see that, so I'll put that to one side. And here's the blurb. So, I mean, Lumen's 5, but I'll go through all of these. 2 meters underwater, 1 meter, 1.5 drop rating, and not a lot on there, and there's a little niteye logo. So let's get that to one side, and let's look at the actual unit itself. So, nice and small, pretty light, feels pretty good, feels sort of light like an O-Light. I like all these entry points here. That gives you more options. Also, I'm a big fan of machining on clips. When you machine on clips, it gives you more attachment options, which I like. Clip feels pretty good, actually. You can obviously remove it if you want, but feels pretty good. Yeah, decent enough. Feels heavy duty. Obviously that comes off a little bit easier than I would want, because look, if you force that with a tiny little bit of, that's not a lot of force, and that's coming straight off, so that probably needs a bit of a redesign. Maybe a bigger lip on here. It is rotatable. Not that that matters anyway. Okay, so let's have a close-up look here. So Jetbeam, and there's the code for it. Nice knurling on the rotary action here. Okay, looks good. It has one of these daft things on where you're supposed to, you can put a spike on and go all Mad Max on a windscreen, things like that. Without training, I wouldn't recommend that. You'll probably break your wrist. But who knows? If you've had proper training, fair enough. Or in an emergency. But I certainly wouldn't consider that an offensive weapon. So it's got one entry point, which is here. Now, the weird thing is, if you notice, the clip comes down onto the rotary bit there. I'm just noticing it actually forces itself down onto the rotary as you turn it, which is a bit of a strange design choice. But we'll go over that. So anyway, let's have a proper look at this. It's a orange peel reflector. as you can see in there. Now when I talk about orange peel, what I'm talking about is, I'm talking about the, not the, obviously the LED in the middle there, but this surround here. It's how the light's reflected. So I'm going to quickly go over that because I like to do that. I like people to know what it is that they're getting. So traditionally, you've got your LED and then your PCB and then your batteries here somewhere, and then you want light to be produced. Now, rather than just blindly, such an example would be the Nitecore tube here. There's literally just an LED there, and light's going everywhere. It's going all over the place and back in your eye, which is a ridiculous design, but you can put your thumb over like that. So you want a bit of control over that light. So there's three main methods for that. So the first main method is to use a reflector. So if you imagine putting a reflector over there, and a smooth reflector, so obviously you get your light which comes out from the LED, comes out like that and then hits the surface. You've also got bounced light, in other words it's focused, and that projects the light. So you've got spill and your subsidiary light. So when that hits a wall with a smooth reflector, you get this sort of configuration. I'm over-exaggerating and oversimplifying, but you get the point. So this is your superfluous light from the LED, and then this is your projected light. So I'll give you an example. So for example, here's a hiker light. So we'll turn that on. I'll turn it down to a more sensible level though. Come on, there you go. Right. So can you see what's happening here? So the LED light is coming out, and this is called spill. So it's just coming straight out and it's going there. Now the directed light from the smooth reflector, you can see that's a smooth reflector. So the directed light is in the hot spot here. So this is this section in the middle. So directed light is brilliant for projecting it. So if you want to look at something at the other end of a field, you want this sort of thing. So you want to project the light, and you also have a bit of spill so you can see what your feet are doing, and you're not going to fall down a rabbit hole, which I've done myself and nearly broke my blinking ankle, but that's another matter. So that's just one method of projecting the light. Now the only problem with that is, look, you're obscuring detail in this portion, so maybe at close range this isn't the best idea. Now the two ways of mitigating that are obviously to turn the level down or pull back, and you're no longer obscuring detail. But do you really want to be doing that if you're working on a fuse box or something, for example, or disarming a mine? Probably not. So put that to one side. Your other option to try and smooth out these zones is to use an orange peel reflector. So instead of a smooth reflector like that, you have bumps and aberrations there. A little bit like an orange peel, in other words, it's not perfectly smooth. So what happens is when it hits the wall, instead of having these two distinct zones, you get a transition. More of a transition. It's certainly not perfect, and it depends on the design, but it's less obscuring of detail. So for example, let's have a look. Here is an orange peel reflector, you can see there. Orange peel, this is the on the road M3. So if we turn this on, there you go. So turn it down a little bit. There, medium, right. Okay, so can you see what's happening here? You've got the spill, which is here to here. This is still spill, okay. You do have a hotspot, but it's certainly obscuring detail less than the smooth reflector was doing. It's certainly not perfect, but it's less. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to say, look, it's going to project light, but it's also going to try less to obscure detail, and you're going to get a smoother transition between the spill and the spot, which makes sense to me. This is one of my favorite designs. I really like an orange peel reflector. I like to have the ability to project when I need it, and I also like to have the ability to not obscure detail and do closer up work, because that's sometimes, I would argue, especially camping and things like that, walking a dog or whatever, that's what you're going to spend most of your time doing. Obviously, if you want maximum distance, you're going to have to get a smooth thrower, and that's just the way it goes. Now, the further end of the scale is to use a TIR lens. TIR lens. Some people call it reflector. It doesn't really matter. It's all sort of semantics at the end of the day. So you've got your LED, and then over the top of it, you put a solid lens. So this is imagine this isn't an empty space. This isn't a cavity with light bouncing around. It's a solid medium, okay? So within this, light is transmitted. So TIR just stands for total internal reflection. In other words, the light is completely reflected within the medium, very little loss of light, and then it's projected out in the manner that you want. There's various designs. I mean, all I use like a sort of a curve and then a little bump in it. It's a way of, how can I explain this? It's a way of intelligently sending light out in a more controlled fashion. Controlled as in what you want, rather than just you're going to have a bit of spot and you're going to have a bit of spill. So the two designs are obviously the all light way, or you can have like a small faceted set there where every bit of light that reaches this surface comes out in a uniform pattern. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like, because it's difficult to explain these things. Here's a TIR lens. So one of the obvious nice points of a TIR lens is you don't have to have a huge height. I mean, ignore the width of this. This is meant to be a small unit, but if I turn this on, even on high, now can you see even at moderate range, yeah, there's something of a spot, but look at the spill, it's massive. The spill's coming right up to there, it's going right out. What a beautiful transition that is for close-up. Now, bear in mind, a TIR isn't very good at range. I've tested all lights at various ranges outside under various conditions, and they're great. I love them for close-up and medium, but long range, they tend to lack in that skill. But up close, beautiful. Look at that transition. So there's your three options. So you've got TIR for up close and medium, then you've got orange peel for medium to long, and a little bit of close-up, and then you've got your smooth reflector for maximum range. So obviously this comes in the middle of that. This is a compromise, so I like that design. And then they've put a little bezel in there. So I'm going to go through some of the facts whilst I take this to bits. So it's an IPX8. Now IPX8 means that I'm going to use the word waterproof. Put it this way, if you were to properly close that properly and still have an intact O-ring, if that was to drop into 2 meters of water, so 2 meters of water height above it, pushing down, obviously trying to get into there shouldn't be water ingress in that. There shouldn't be. IPX8 is, I highly rate that. It just means if it's pouring down rain, you don't have to worry about your flashlight. You don't have to think, oh my God, it's going to get wet, and you don't want to be let down by equipment, especially if there's a tactical need there. So IPX8, nice to see. It's got a 1.5 meter drop rating. In other words, if you hold this 1.5 meters above like a piece of concrete and drop, you're not going to have issues, or you shouldn't have. That's what the manufacturer is certain of. So nice to see that. That's better than some of the other ones. Some of them are 2 meters, but you know, Army Tech, God knows what the Army Tech ones are, but they're very expensive. You can probably drop it off the Eiffel Tower, but that doesn't matter. So orange peel reflector, it's a cr123 battery. So let's get in here and see what's... Now, can you see what I mean about this clip? It's pushing on that as you're trying to rotorize it there, but never mind. So let's have a look at this. Oh, that's quite a nice design. Now what's this here? There's a little cover there, and then it's got a nice coated section there. The threads look decent, yeah, clean. There's a slight bit of lubricant on there, but not too much. Yeah, you can see it. They've not overdone it. Like some of them overdo it, and then what happens is you think, well, more lubricant's going to be better. Not necessarily. What happens is it just gets all the dirt on, and then it's like a pepper grinder when you're trying to put it on. So nice to see that. Nice big decent spring. I'm just going to have a feel of that. Obviously, you know, you might see me do this in these. That's a bit of a weak spring, but this is a smaller battery that you're going to be using. Here's a little 1, 2, 3, so you don't need such a hefty spring in this. Obviously, when you see me doing this, I'm just testing the quality of the springs here. Don't do what I'm doing because obviously dirt and grease is going to get on that, but I'll clean that later on with a bit of alcohol. So nice to see. So let's get the battery in and I'll go through some of the modes. So can you see what I mean? How that's a bit, you might catch that, but okay, that's a bit of a strange design choice because that's pushing on that. Let's get this on. Right, so you've got 4 modes. In fact, it's gone into one of the modes already because it's rotary. So let's put that to one side and go through the modes. So 4 modes, you've got ultra low, low, medium and high. So unless this has a memory mode, which I don't think it does, it should go straight on to ultra low. Right, that's ultra low. So you can barely see that. Obviously, it's daytime here, so this is obscuring. Now, you can barely see that. That's 0.5. Now, the whole point of a low lumen setting for your first setting is longevity of battery. You get 150 hours out of that, which is highly impressive. Obviously, you're not going to do much walking about with that, but you can read maps and do emergency things, you know, a bit of firelighting or whatever. The whole point of a low lumen mode like that is it doesn't ruin night vision. And night vision is when you become accustomed to low light conditions, and then what happens is you'd be surprised after about sort of 20 minutes, 10-20 minutes, you can, even in moonlight, you can function. It's surprising when you get used to it. But then obviously if you want to read a map or something or do something critical, you're going to have to go to a low lumen level. Now, you don't want that too high, because if that's too high, it all reflects back in your eyes or your buddy's eyes, who are also trying to protect their night vision, and that ruins their night vision. It then takes another 20 minutes to get a level of a customization to the light levels that you've got. So I appreciate that. Generally, I would say moonlight and ultra low modes should be no more than 1 lumen. You don't need any more than that, especially up close on a map and things like that. That's perfectly adequate. And 1.5, you're getting 150 hours out of such a small battery. Absolutely spot on. So the next one, so if you turn off and back on, right, you're now in low. Now that's not bad. Now low is 5 lumens, but you get 15 hours out of that. So, I mean, one option you could use that for, I've done this myself, you know, if you're out camping, you can just hang a flashlight on a low level all night, and if you need to get up for a pee, or you hear a noise, or you've got to get up in a rush for operational needs, you've already got that light. I appreciate that. And 15 hours is pretty good. You know, you're not going to stay in bed 15 hours, especially if you're freezing cold and camping and things like that. So decent enough. And then the next one is medium, so off and back on. That's pretty bright. So that's 100 lumens. Now, even though that's only 100 lumens, I would argue between 100 and 250, 300 is where most people are going to do most of their work. Because any more than that, especially at close ranges, it's too much and it's all glaring back at you. So you can get plenty done with that. You get 1.5 hours. Now, look at the size of this thing. 1.5 hours. It's so small, it hides in my hand. That's pretty good. So that's pretty impressive. And then high, if you really need it. Bang. Hang on. Low, medium, high. There you go. So we're up to high there. So if you want to go right up to high, that's high there. So that's extremely bright. Now, that's 500 lumens. So bear in mind, because you're going right up to 500 lumens, you're only going to get 45 minutes out of that battery. But that's excellent if you need that boost. And because it's an orange peel reflector, you can deal up close and a little bit in the distance. So it's nice to see that. It's not getting too hot, but obviously hold that long enough, there's going to come a point when it gets quite hot. But it's not like some of the other flashlights where they're hitting 1,000 lumens. You're going to get less heat from this. But that's pretty good, and it's a pretty decent CREE LED in there. So it's doing okay. So we'll turn that off. Right. So let's give this a rating. And what I want to do is I want to compare it to some of the competition in this arena. So things I don't like. This clip is weak. There's no two ways about it. Look, I'm using my thumb. I'm slightly lifting that. That's ridiculous. That's unacceptable. Come on, Jetbeam. I really like your stuff. I like the finish on them. It's almost like a ceramic, even though it isn't. It's just paint. But come on, that could be better. I'm going to have to mark it down for that. That's ridiculous. If I was putting that into a jeans pocket, that's going to come straight up. That's going to be highly annoying. So put that back in. I like all the attachment points. I don't like the way that this clip is pushing down on here. To be honest, there's no other way they could do that, because to not have that, the clip would be so short it would be next to useless. And it's already a deep carry in that it comes right at the top. I think they really need to fix this though. They need to there's something they need to do there, or maybe, I don't know, maybe change that design slightly, but that needs fixing. The bezel looks alright, I suppose, and it's deep enough to prevent damage. I presume that screws out if you've got the fittings. Looks clean inside there. Threads are decent. Not bad. I'm going to compare it and then give it a mark. So I'll put that to one side. Now, comparing it, I would like to compare it to the On The Road, which is $10 cheaper than this. But you're getting, I mean, I would say about 600, 700, 800 lumens at maximum, and it's an orange peel reflector. Now, bear in mind, obviously, size difference. Jetbeam have done a fantastic job size-wise. That's brilliant. I mean, look at the difference. They're both using the same battery, but that's absolutely fantastic. So Jetbeam win on that regards. And because it's a rotary, you can't accidentally turn it on like you can this. Although with the On The Road, look, just do that. There you go. Problem fixed. That's not going on by accident. But there's a better clip on this. Much better design. Nice deep carry. And that's not coming off every 5 minutes. And that's reversible, so you can put it on a cap. Whereas this, you can't reverse the clip because there's nothing for the back end to go on. You couldn't put that on a peak of a cap, for example, which is a shame. So maybe it's a redesign of the clip. I don't know how they would do that, though. I'm certainly not an engineering genius, so I don't know how they would manage that. But there may be a method of fixing that. And it's nice to see this attachment if you need it. So if you want smaller, yeah, that wins on the M3, but the M3 has a bigger output, better clip. So there you go. So there's just one other possibility. And then you've got the really small form factor ones, which are the AAA ones. There's the little Thorfire, which I thought was too long for what it does, but it's a tail clicker, and I like a tail clicker. Clip on that's not the best, but a lot cheaper. And then there's the smaller Jetbeam, again AAA, but I thought that was beautiful. Now that uses a different type of lens. It's a TIR lens, but it's formulated in a way where it spreads the light, and I quite like that. I highly rate this. I still like it. It's got a lovely finish, feels solid. All the movements are beautiful on it. Clip on this, fantastic. I don't know why they couldn't emulate that with this clip. Maybe that's just a problem in the engineering, I don't know, but that I highly rated that. Obviously, you know, these are going to get about 100, 120 lumens. Same with the although the Olight bumps that even higher and goes to 180. That's a little TIR. Another beautiful little light there, but quite expensive. And then you've got the Astrolux, the A01 there, again about 100 lumens. I'm just showing you these for size comparison. Then you have a one which is a similar size. It's actually smaller, and it comes with a magnetic clip there, but it's a side button. It's the MI1C by Claris. But again, that uses a convex lens, so you get a big spread. It's poor at range, whereas this is much better. And they're probably about similar price. I think this was slightly overpriced, but again, it's got a decent clip. It certainly works well. And then your other options obviously are the boxy ones. So you've got things like the Nitecore TINI, which I highly rated. Thought that was really good. That uses a TIR lens, which is almost like a faceted one, and you get a lovely spread there. Brilliant output. That's obviously in a more cool white output, but no problems in USB charging on board. And then the Kia one by Astrolux, again very similar to this, but you're getting daft gimmicky modes like UV and red light, but not as much output as the Nitecore TINI. And then you've got a little tube there, which even though it's small and it looks rubbish, it does a really good job, and it's high quality. I did test this against a fake version of it, and it was much better than the fake. And then you've got the little mini one by Claris there, which is a little TIR. So you've got to ask yourself, are you willing to put up with what I would consider anyway, it's just my personal opinion, a rubbish clip? Look, comes straight off, useless. If they could fix that better, although I'll be honest, I don't use clips that often. Because of the size of this, do you really need a clip? You can just put it in the bottom of your pocket. What's the problem? So I'm only going to take off sort of 1 point for that, I would say. So I'll put that to one side, and I'm going to give it a mark. Let's move these out of the way. Right, let's bear everything in mind that I've discussed. And what I would say is it does a good job, good output. It goes nice and low, and it also goes reasonably high for that type of battery. It's got an orange peel reflector. It's let down by the clip. I'm going to give this 7.5 because I don't use a clip, and I don't think many people do at this form factor anyway. For its form factor, it does very well. I'll do some comparison shots for the other smaller flashlights in this range, just so you can see what the output looks like. But 7.5, and I think if they improve this clip, I'd certainly give it an 8. It's not amazing, but it does a good job, and it feels nice. Apart from that clip, it's just let down. It's a shame. So 7.5, that's enough of me waffling on. Let's get outside.